are two words mentioned very often in our world, and many people that rest in complete procrastination voice them with passiveness in a sort of a mechanic way. This conveys the risk of turning them empty, worn out concepts. Fortunately, there are many other voices that do not only talk about tackling poverty and reducing inequality, but that act on it. And this room today is full with such minds and spirits. I cannot go further without confessing the pride and the joy I felt, Sabina, when I received this invitation. It is both encouraging and refreshing to witness the coming together of committed and visionary leaders towards one simple but great goal: making life better for millions of our fellow citizens. I believe, quite passionately, there is no other greater role for us as human beings. I also believe in ambition when it's accompanied by action, and in making bold decisions to transform our visions into reality. If we truly aspire to bring changes in our countries, we must be determined, and we must act as resolute dreamers. No aspirations regarding the well-being of men, women, and children is either too small or big enough. We are called to think big, to take long steps, because this will pave the road towards positive and profound transformations. And this is exactly how we are doing things in my country, in Colombia. Almost 3 years ago, 34 months tomorrow to be exactly, have gone by since I took office. From day one, from the very beginning, we decided to set in motion a very thorough process of rethinking and reshaping the current state of affairs of my country. We are aiming to transform Colombia into a more solid, brighter, and prosperous nation. We want to change the life of our people, of course, for the better. With this in mind, we deployed a handful of programs to build a country where people are capable to find and create quality jobs while they can see their incomes grow in a sustainable fashion. A country where Colombians can own and enjoy a decent house, whether they are able to afford it or not. A country where children, in their earliest years, receive the right care and the right attention, and where they can later attend a good school. And when they become adults, they all have equal opportunities to follow the life of their choosing and are able to generate enough and sustainable incomes in a well-functioning labor market. A country where the gap between the rich and the poor blurs and weakens. These images could be easily mistaken for a mere idealistic dream and could be classified as impossible goals. And as a matter of fact, they have. We, in my government, have been accused of being too ambitious for addressing or trying to address all of our country's pressing issues at once. But I must tell you, we would not want it any other way. I personally am certain that I would not. We understand it as our duty to seize this moment and reach as many milestones as possible. It is our responsibility to make the most of it for the sake of more than 47 million Colombians that keep our country moving every day. So one of the first things we thought of when paving our way forward was how could we achieve groundbreaking results in the reduction of poverty and inequality. We strive to be efficient, to be effective, to be accountable, and to be transparent. More so, we live by those principles. Very soon we became aware that to reach these ambitious goals, we had to create an instrument that enabled us to tackle poverty in the most effective way, with programs to target specific needs and with reliable indicators that allow us to track our progress. With this in mind, our government, with the help of international experts, designed a new way to measure poverty based on the Alkire-Foster methodology to be used on top of the traditional ways of measuring of household income poverty. So the new National Multidimensional Poverty Index, what we call the MPI Colombia, was launched as an official measurement of poverty on August 2011, with the presence of Sabina, the director of the Oxford Poverty and Human Development Initiative, and Professor James Foster of George Washington University, who were with us and guided us in the process. And we thank both of you very, very much. Radical social advances are only possible if we understand, through careful observation and analysis, the deep roots of our poverty and the many shades of inequality within our societies. Hence the urgency of implementing a multidimensional approach in our battle against poverty. We know this challenge has more than one side, more than one face, and to outsmart it, we need to uncover them all. And this is precisely what we have been doing with the utmost dedication and the guidance of our multidimensional poverty index during the past 2 years. It has helped us design public policies aimed at achieving substantial social improvements. The MPI inspired the social programs and strategies that are improving most aspects of people's lives in my country. Right now, we are assessing 5 dimensions: education, employment, health and access to public services, conditions of our children and of our youth, and, of course, housing. And we are producing considerable results. We think, and we're proud to say that we proved that it is possible to meet ambitious objectives. In just 2 years, poverty, measured by the traditional income approach, decreased 4.5 percentage points, from 37.2 to 32.7%. That means 1.7 million Colombians were taken out of poverty. Importantly, we are about to reach, in just 2 years, the goal we set for us in 4 years, which was 32% in the 4 years. And on the other hand, 700,000 Colombians have gone out of extreme poverty. We are, with Peru, the 2 countries in Latin America where poverty has been reduced the most. And what about our new MPI index? The MPI index also reveals we are on the right track. As of now, it has decreased 3.7 percentage points, which means 1.3 million Colombians have overcome multidimensional poverty. All of the dimensions taken into account by the index improved between the year 2010 and the year 2012. Furthermore, and probably more important, at least I consider that very, very important, we are also reducing inequality. We broke, for the first time since we measure inequality, the perverse trend in which our economy grew and everybody applauded, but under very unjust conditions. The rich were becoming richer and the poor were becoming poorer. That is, the economy grew, but inequality also increased. That was true in Colombia, at least from the period 1985 to the period 2010. as the data shows very clearly. But we are, fortunately, no longer today in this trend, and we are no longer the second or third most unequal country in Latin America. We are now closer to the average. And we are, with Ecuador, the two countries that in the last 2 years have been able to decrease inequality more than any other country in the region. The Gini coefficient dropped 2.1 points from 0.56 in the year 2010 to 0.539 in the year 2012, which means that in our case, we accomplished the goal we had set for ourselves of 0.54 in the year 2014. And why did this happen? Because the poorest household incomes are now growing much faster. In our case, 13.2%, while the richest ones are growing also, but at a slower pace. In our case, 2.3%. Today, education in public schools is free for almost 9 million boys and girls, and we have brought internet access to 6 million homes. A great deal of these results have been possible because we are creating good, productive jobs that result in higher incomes for millions of families and have been able to improve their living conditions. 2 million jobs have been created, most of them inside the poorest communities during the past 2.5 years. And more so, unemployment has decreased more than double among the poor than among those with higher incomes. And this we have targeted specifically. And for the first time since 1994, something which we also consider very important, formal employment is increasing faster than informal employment. All these symptoms of real progress and evidence of the profound are symptoms of the profound social transformation we are producing in Colombia by improving the living conditions of the poorest sector of our society. And we expect these results to continue in the coming years, among many other things, because of the full effects of a tax reform and a reform that we did on the way we distribute the royalties that we receive from the sale of oil and minerals, which are going to have an even further and stronger impact on reducing inequality, because this was not measured by the last figures, plus a real revolution we're trying to make in the housing sector by allowing the poorest to have access for the first time, a dream they've always had that they've never been able to fulfill, to have a house in many of the families of the lower echelons of society. And we owe a great deal of this to our multidimensional poverty index, probably the most valuable tool to know where the most valuable tool that we can use to be able to know where we should be allocating resources and efforts, and at the same time allows us to measure if we are doing the job in the appropriate way. Such progress has been possible because two groups of extraordinary people work together in adjusting the Al-Qaeda index to our reality. I must applaud and congratulate the hard work and the long hours invested by the OFI team and by people from our government. This is beyond doubt international cooperation at its best, and we are deeply grateful for your support and your guidance. Great things do happen when bright and responsible people join hands towards a higher purpose, inspired by the vision and way of thinking of a remarkable human being, my former professor, Amartya Sen. What you all achieved by putting the pieces together to build this comprehensive approach is resulting, as we have gathered here today, in better living conditions for millions of Colombians. We know it works because we can see the results of this approach across the country. We measure it every day. This is why we must now take it to a higher level, sort of to step it up. I am a firm believer that it is our duty to lead ambitious social changes within our countries. Fortunately, the multidimensional poverty peer network, all of you, will be the platform to help this happen. The sole idea of applying this tool in more countries is very inspiring, and it will stimulate growth and well-being wherever it goes, and I am sure of that. We saw it in my country. No matter how different and diverse our nations are, we are all alike in one regard. We have more than one dimension, and this is the beauty of this instrument. The time has come for us to share our experiences in a broader manner and to build collective experience and knowledge. We now are coming to the end of the Millennium goals that the United Nations set for the world, and we are now discussing new ways, or the post-millennium era. And as a matter of fact, the Great Britain, I just came from conversation with Prime Minister Cameron, and Colombia, my Minister of Foreign Relations, are in a committee trying to explore ways to measure or to put the world in a new trend, to see what other goals can we try to achieve that take into account also the environmental situation. I think this approach could be extremely useful to help the whole world to measure itself socially in a much better way. So far, 6 countries, including Colombia, have taken a step forward by adapting the methodology to their own set of circumstances. And I think in the 6 countries, you know better than I do, it's paid off. And here the political will to make the right decision, to do the right thing, is key. It would be unthinkable not to multiply this experience around the globe. I would say even it would be irresponsible not to create a network that will assist us in planting the seeds of prosperity in land beyond our borders. This system of peers will show many other countries the way to foster true and lasting transformations within the poorest communities and households. We shall believe and trust our potential as leaders to bring these changes about in the lives of millions of people. And it will not be easy. It will be challenging. It will be demanding. And it will be certainly full of difficulties. But that is precisely why we must do it. And we must not lose our drive and enthusiasm. And let us push in our actions and permanently measure ourselves to guarantee progress. Let that be the spirit of this new peer-to-peer network. I trust that we can make this work so we can benefit more and more families around the world. I have learned that we must let vision guide us, but we must let ambition drive us. If we think big while reaching out to others, we will turn our countries around towards a prosperous and thriving reality, one where poverty, hopefully, becomes a distant memory as time goes by. Thank you.